Today we're going to be talking about migration. Migration is the seasonal movement of animals from one place to another place. We're going to be looking at some animals that migrate right through Oklahoma so that you can observe these animals at certain times of the year during different seasons. Some of these animals travel thousands and thousands of miles. That seems like a lot of work. So my first question is, why are these animals going to the hassle of traveling thousands of miles, sometimes twice a year? First, let's figure out why we, people, might want to get up and move. Looking outside right now, there's a lot of snow on the ground. Brrr. On days like that, I like to just stay inside and drink hot chocolate here in my home. But what if my heater went out? All that snow outside, all the coldness would sneak inside my house and I would be miserable. And you know what, guys? It would get so cold that I think I might find the need to migrate. I might want to move to somewhere warmer. Maybe a neighbor will take me in if their heater's still working. Or what if I'm hungry and I'm ready to make some dinner? So I go to my refrigerator and I open it up and dun, dun, it's empty. I might find the need to migrate to the grocery store. Or what if two people met and fell in love with each other? They might want to migrate to be closer to each other so that one day they could start a family together. Or what if I left the door open and there's a swarm of mosquitoes coming in trying to... I think I might want to migrate somewhere where the mosquitoes aren't biting me. I want to get away from those predators. So we just discovered 4 different reasons that you or me might need to migrate. Number 1, because of the temperature. Number 2, because of food. Number 3, because we want to start a family. And number 4, because a predator was bothering us. It's the same thing for animals, the same 4 reasons. Now let's explore some of the animals that will be coming right through Oklahoma for one of those reasons. Reason number 1, the cold weather of winter. Ooh. Luckily, the entire world is not experiencing winter all at one time. If you remember from our lesson about the sun, we're pretending this light bulb is the sun. The Earth is actually orbiting the sun. In 1 year, remember it makes a big circle around the sun? So that means in this part of the world, up here, it's summertime, when down here, this part of the world is experiencing winter time. So all the animals that are cold can migrate up here. And then vice versa. Over here, when this part is feeling winter, the animals can migrate down here to be warm again. Our friend, the monarch butterfly, is one of these animals that migrates every winter to a warmer climate. He joins his friends down in Mexico to avoid the cold. The monarch butterfly likes warm weather, and it will migrate 3,000 miles twice a year. It comes from the northern states of the United States, and even sometimes from the country above us called Canada. And they fly south towards the country below the United States, which is Mexico. And on their trip, they come right through Oklahoma. Then you'll see them in October heading south. And then once they know that the Earth has orbited long enough that it is now warm again in their home, they'll return. And they'll come right through Oklahoma again in April, heading home. That's 6,000 miles in a year. Woo! They must get really tired on that road trip. I bet you they need snacks and a place to rest. That's where you and I come into play. Scientists and teachers and gardeners and people just like you and me actually plant special gardens for these monarchs along their trip so that they can stop and take a snooze and get a little bite to eat. They fill these gardens called way stations with purple coneflowers and beautiful goldenrod that provide tasty nectar to fill the monarchs' hungry bellies. And the plants also provide a place to rest. They can sleep on the stems of these plants and protection when they sleep. They can hide under the leaves to keep them safe from predators. So keep your eyes out in October and in April for the monarch butterflies stopping in Oklahoma on their way to Mexico in October or back home in April. Okay, so animals migrate because of the temperature. They want to stay warm. Now the second reason was food. Remember when I looked in my refrigerator and there wasn't any? That gives us and animals a reason to migrate: food. Observe this winter tree with its bare branches and this frozen bush without any berries. Let's talk about bird food. Birds need food. Now, did you see any berries or any nuts on those bushes that I just showed you? That's the usual food of most birds. And up here in the northern states of the United States, it gets very cold in the winter and there are no more berries and nuts. There's one bird in particular I'd like to talk about. It's the bald eagle. The bald eagle actually eats fish. Now, what happens to water, like water in the ponds, the lakes, the rivers, the creeks where the fish live? What happens to that water when it gets too cold in these northern states? Freezes. And the poor bald eagle can no longer get to the fish. So the bald eagle knows it's time to migrate. And it flies south. And guess what? In late November and early December every year, the bald eagle comes right here to Oklahoma. The bald eagles build giant nests, much bigger than this one. But they build them in the trees near the Arkansas River right here in Tulsa. I've seen it with my own eyes. They like to build their nests near bodies of water because they're looking for fish. And they stay there in their big old nests until it warms back up in their home state so they can migrate back north. Okay, so animals migrate for warmth and for food. Now we're going to talk about a third reason. They also migrate to mate so they can start a family, like birds laying eggs. At my old house, there was a cute little pair of mourning doves that would migrate from somewhere, I don't know where, but they would migrate right to my back porch and they would build a little nest in the ferns on my back porch. And I was able to watch them lay eggs, sit on their eggs, hatch their eggs, and I got to watch them teach their little baby how to fly every spring. And then they would migrate away. We're going to talk about another bird that does the same thing, and it migrates all the way, once again, from the north to the south, stopping right here in Oklahoma on its way to Mexico. And while it's in Oklahoma, it's going to mate and lay eggs. It's the ruby-throated hummingbird. The handsome male hummingbird will arrive at the end of March, and then in the beginning of April, the female hummingbirds will arrive. And together, they are going to hunt for the perfect tree branch to build their little nest. Once they find it, they build their walnut-sized nest. It's very tiny. They lay their 2 little eggs, and once it hatches, together they teach the little bird how to fly. So, be on the lookout for the ruby-throated hummingbird, the hummingbird with the red necks, this April in Oklahoma. Maybe you'll even catch a glimpse of those hummingbirds teaching their babies to fly, because they'll be hanging out here doing just that until October, when it starts to get cold here and they finish their migration all the way down to Mexico. Okay, so animals migrate for warmth, for food, to mate and start a family. And the last reason that we're going to talk about today, they migrate when they feel threatened. Remember the mosquito that was trying to bite me? I wanted to get up and move. It's the same thing with animals. When they feel threatened, they want to migrate to somewhere where it's safe. So, for example, I had a family of bunnies that would come every spring. They'd migrate under my shed. And they would have their baby bunnies there every single spring. And the baby bunnies would come to my little garden and eat all of my strawberries until I got a cat. And this cat was a predator. And this cat ate the baby bunnies. Guess what? My family of bunnies migrated away from my shed to somewhere safer. Unfortunately, sometimes humans are the predators. We're going to take a look at a forest full of palm trees. Let's take a look at it now.
Doesn't look much like a forest, does it? Sadly, it's been chopped down.
We cut down all of those trees to use the oils from those trees to make things like cleaning supplies and beauty products and packaged food. Humans did that. Now let's take a look at some of the little animals and creatures that actually called that forest its home.
The orangutan, the Asian rhinoceros, and the pygmy elephant.
Those animals migrated because they felt threatened when we started cutting down their trees. Luckily, people like you and me have become concerned for those animals, and now what we do is we assist or help them migrate before we cut down their trees. We help them migrate somewhere safe.
Unfortunately, assisted migration is just a small band-aid on a very big wound that our choices have created. Animals choose to migrate for warmth or food or to start a family. Let's not force them to by being a predator ourselves. You can help our friends, the orangutans, the rhinos, and the elephants, by looking at the ingredients in your cosmetics, your snack food, and in your cleaning supplies. Make sure it doesn't contain any palm oil. There are a lot of predators out there naturally, like my cat or this tiger, that are making animals migrate. Let's not make ourselves a predator too. An animal's migration is a life journey. And if we use our observation skills, we will realize just how much it affects us and how we affect it.
This brings me to the last thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about how migration affects your ecosystems. Oh, that's a big word. Don't be scared. Ecosystem just means a community of living things that are interacting with each other. Like that rainforest, where all those animals were living in the forest, interacting with the living plants, interacting with each other. That's an ecosystem. Let's talk about an ecosystem that's a little closer to home.
Have you ever spied any berries growing on a bush or a tree in your backyard or neighborhood? Those make the perfect meal for a bird living in your backyard or neighborhood. And the bird makes the perfect meal for a cat living in your backyard or your neighborhood. All those things are interacting.
Remember our friend the monarch? How does the monarch's migration affect our ecosystem, I wonder?
As the hungry monarchs drink the tasty nectar from the flowers, they accidentally dance all over the very middle of the flower, which looks like this. Its feet gets covered in the sticky yellow pollen. If that pollen gets just to the right spot of the flower can make some baby seeds. And if the flower makes baby seeds, the plant will protect the seeds by putting them into a juicy fruit like tomatoes and berries. And those in turn become tasty, tasty food for birds and for you and for me. So thanks to the butterflies for helping out our ecosystem.
Remember our friend the bald eagle? I wonder how his migration affects our ecosystem.
He'll affect the population of fish. If he eats them all, the population will go down, and the fish's job was to eat bugs like water bugs and dragonflies. If they aren't there to eat them, then the population of these bugs will go up, so you'll observe more bugs during this time of migration. You'll also be outside observing the birds, so out come the bird watchers, like you and me, and we, in turn, will be affecting the ecosystem.
And lastly, how about you? You move from one place to another. Maybe you've migrated from one school to another school, one house to another house, one neighborhood to another neighborhood, or maybe somebody's migrated into your life. Maybe a new student came into your classroom, or you got a new teacher. How did these migrations affect your ecosystem, your balance of life? Did you ever become friends with a new student? Or maybe the new teacher became your favorite teacher? You have to realize that when you move into other people's lives or other people move into your lives, you are affecting people and they are affecting you. So be aware of that when you move or go into someone's house. Make sure you ask politely before taking their food so that you don't upset their ecosystem. Make sure you put things back where they belong so that you don't upset their ecosystem. If you play with some toys, make sure you clean them up and put them back where you found them. Maybe you could say please. Maybe you could say thank you. Your interactions with their ecosystem as a result of your migration into their lives is gonna affect them. So make sure you're affecting those people in a positive way. And remember, if other people move into your life and migrate into your life, even if just for a short time, make sure that they're also making a positive impact on them. And if they're not, feel free to migrate somewhere else. Living things move. So let's make some observations of migration. Look for the bald eagle in February. Look for the monarch in April. Be aware of when you migrate into someone else's world or when someone migrates into your world. Let's make sure we're making peaceful effects on their ecosystems. All right, that's all I got for you today, Global Gardeners. Go make observations of migration, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.